Well, there is never a dull moment with the 49ers. Yesterday, I was in the locker room here in Seattle. Hello from the Fairmont Olympic Hotel. Nice spot, downtown Seattle. I know the original one's in San Francisco, but they've got a good one here in Seattle as well. So I'm in the locker room, and of course, the 49ers are in a good mood. They had won a hard fought game against the Seattle Seahawks. And that meant as much as a week one win can possibly mean, given the context, given where the 49ers were coming from. But one thing that I noticed is that Trent Williams and Colton McKivitz were talking for quite some time, and they were both very, very happy. A lot of smiles, some long conversation. And normally, visiting locker room after a game, it's a frenetic scene. You got to zip up the bags. You've got a bus to catch because that bus is taking you to the tarmac and the plane has to get back to the Bay Area. But Williams and Colton McKivitz, the 49ers, two tackles, were straight up chilling. I mean, they were going to have a good time. That there was no rush in the world for either of them. And, at the time, there was a lot of good feelings in that 49ers locker room because of the win and the way they had gotten that done. But at the time, I chalked it up to just that. It turns out that Williams and especially McKivitz had two reasons to celebrate. Colton McKivitz has signed an extension with the 49ers, and it's 3 years up to $45 million. Adam Schefter first broke the news this morning. This is a bargain for San Francisco. We did not expect them to land Colton McKivitz on a longer contract at only $15 million per year. If you want perspective here, Jalen Moore, who was McKivitz's backup with the 49ers, signed for the same APY, average per year, with the Chiefs, $15 million this offseason, and he's not even starting for Kansas City. At least he didn't start week one when they lost to the Chargers in Brazil. Somebody like Luke Gadecki, 6 days ago, the Tampa Bay Bucks right tackle, signed a deal up to $90 million for $22.5 million per year. Colton McKivitz comes in way under that at $15 million annually, under what Mike McGlinchey signed for 2 seasons ago with the Denver Broncos, $17.5 million annually. The thought had been that Colton McKivitz would require maybe $20 million to re-sign with the 49ers now. He had been under contract for the 2025 season only, and he was set to make about $4.5 million. Free agency was slated for 2026, and the way that the tackle market is absolutely blowing up right now, it had been thought that Colton McKivitz would just wait it out until free agency and then command a deal worth at least $20 million annually. That's just the way that the market has been working. So, some of you are going to be upset to hear that, but facts are facts in this situation. However, McKivitz agreed to a deal worth $15 million annually, $27 million guaranteed, 3 more years of team control for the 49ers, all the way through 2028. McKivitz agreed to that because entering a brutal season, he wanted financial security. There's the compromise, right? You saw the physical toll this game already took on the 49ers yesterday. This is not a sport for the faint of heart. And when you're worth a lot more than you were being paid as Colton McKivitz, even if you can't get to that full worth because the team still has contractual control for 2025, you can try to find a compromise, which is what McKivitz's side and the 49ers did. They found a compromise at $15 million annually a year before he hits free agency. Good tackles definitely do not grow on trees. And now the 49ers have McKivitz under contract through 2028, and they have Trent Williams under contract through 2026. So we've been saying that the team is going to need to renovate this position contractually very soon for a while now, just because of Trent's advancing age. He is 37. He says that he wants to play 3 more years, but you still have to take this on a year-by-year basis just to insulate yourself if you're the 49ers. McKivitz is 29. He obviously would hope to play, I think, longer than 3 more years. That's why he's running the hills of San Francisco. This is what I wrote just a few weeks ago. And we talked a little bit about this potential extension for Colton McKivitz. A 300-pound lineman is running San Francisco's hills to get in the best shape of his life. So I call this contract the Vallejo Street Victory. Because Vallejo, the steep block of Vallejo, there's a couple blocks of Vallejo there on Russian Hill and Telegraph Hill. Those are the Colton McKivitz blocks. He has been doing a lot of crazy exercises up and down Vallejo and Kearny streets in San Francisco. And hey, the season before, he drove his tractor up Bernal Heights. That was for Brock Purdy's John Deere commercial, but it was a Brock Purdy and Colton McKivitz commercial. So McKivitz now inked for the long term to help protect Brock Purdy's right side. I understand that for some 49ers fans, this is terrible, controversial news, but I am here to educate you. I am here to show you how much Colton McKivitz improved last year, and then we could compare it against the right tackle market. As you could see under pass block percentile, blue is above average. In 2024, he was an above average tackle. He was in the 56th percentile pass blocking score for tackles, over 1,000 snaps for the 49ers. For some context, Colton McKivitz ranked in the 4th percentile his first season starting in 2023. So there was massive improvement from 2023 to 2024. And what the 49ers see here is continued developmental trajectory upward for Colton McKivitz. Remember, to get a ready-made tackle in the NFL draft is very difficult. Those guys are usually off the board before the 49ers even pick. I mean, even this past season, after they won only 6 games and were picking at number 11, Will Campbell, Armand Membu, those were the 2, quote-unquote premier tackles for this draft. They were gone by that point. So if the 49ers are going to be any good this year, and I think that week 1 was a positive step in that direction, it's going to be hard to expect a tackle, one of the ready-made first-round ones. They have extremely stringent physical characteristics that they look for in the position because of all the zone blocking and the reach blocking that they do. And obviously, you need to combine that with pass protection at the tackle position in front of Brock Purdy. But it's really, really tough to find these guys in the draft unless you're picking 1 through 4 or 1 through 5. Colton McKivitz has been developed in a different way. They picked him in the 5th round out of West Virginia way back in 2020. So they've developed him over the years. In 2020, Colton McKivitz played some right guard, and he struggled for the 49ers. It wasn't until 2023 that he became the 49ers starting right tackle. That's after they let Mike McGlinchey walk in free agency. And McGlinchey, that was a deal that was worth $87.5 million max value with the Denver Broncos, $17.5 million per year. The 49ers have gotten McKivitz at a bargain rate since then, a rate of about $3 to $5 or $6 million per year, just depending on how you calculate the money between the 2 deals that he's played under over the course of the past 2 seasons. For a starting right tackle, especially one who's surged to above average pass protection scores in 2024, that is a very good price. And now we can move that forward into 2025 and beyond. The pay raise up to $15 million per year remains a really good price. Again, I think it's relatively surprising that the 49ers were able to find agreement with Colton McKivitz, because I don't think San Francisco was willing to go above $15 million per year. And they found that agreement before the season started. I'm sure that this was inked yesterday before the game, but the news didn't come out until right now. But I think it is surprising that this didn't drag its way all the way to free agency, just given how damn expensive offensive tackles in the NFL now are. So hello, everybody, and welcome in. I know that you're all waking up here on Monday morning. We're going to talk about Colton McKivitz. We're going to talk about the 49ers' big win over the Seattle Seahawks. Mike, why don't we get Brock Purdy's name in the title? Can you do that for us? Mike can change the title while we're showing you guys some of the articles right here. Inside the 49ers locker room after a gutsy, instant classic win in Seattle. Let's brainstorm titles, guys, for YouTube. I know this is playing on Twitter as well, but we can brainstorm some titles. Why Colton McKivitz's big new contract is a deal for Brock Purdy and SF. Because Brock Purdy needs that protection up front. Williams is under contract through 2026, wants to play 3 more years. Now you've got McKivitz for 2026, 2027, 2028. We could look right here at the Colton McKivitz existing contract, the one before this one. I'm sure this is going to be made official by the 49ers at some point today or tomorrow. Mike has updated the title on YouTube. Thank you to Mike. That's clutch. But this is what McKivitz had been scheduled to make in 2025. It's the second row. $3.2 million base salary. The signing bonus of $4 million had already been paid out. $510,000 in per game roster bonus money. $150,000 in workout bonus money, which he already collected, and then $650,000 in other bonus money. Those are incentives and such things. Assuming that McKivitz made everything here in 2025, that would have added up to only $4.5 million. $4.5 million for a plus offensive tackle, which is what Colton McKivitz has developed into, is obviously not a lot. You could see why he was willing to budge away from something like $20 million to get something done now, because risking your body over the course of an NFL season for $4.5 million, when that's way under your market rate, that's not probably the best strategy. So Colton McKivitz decided that, okay, I'll take a little bit less now. I'll play ball with the 49ers. Obviously, he has embraced the community, as you can see here, running the hills of San Francisco to get into that awesome shape has put Colton McKivitz as one of the 49ers who, you could talk about the city, obviously, where the 49ers started. I know that they're down in Santa Clara right now. I make the trip down from San Francisco to Santa Clara for practice almost every day. But a lot of the 49ers players, they're so busy down at the facility that they don't interact as much up with the city of San Francisco itself. And here you had Colton McKivitz 5 times a week over the course of the offseason, heading up to Telegraph Hill. If you go to Kearny Street, if you go to Vallejo Street, those are some intense grades. Those are some of the most iconic hills in the world. And you had Colton McKivitz working on those hills this offseason, adding 6 to 7 pounds of muscle. I mean, here I have it. The block of Kearny between Broadway and Vallejo intimidates with its 30.3% grade. It's not the steepest in the city. By the way, Bradford Street in Bernal Heights, that's where Colton McKivitz drove his tractor. I don't think he drove it up Bradford, but it was in Bernal Heights. That's the steepest in the world, possibly, at 41%. But Colton McKivitz says that he's now in the best shape of his life after running Kearny and running Vallejo at the Kearny, at least, at the 30% grade. I mean, I did a show from the Kearny Street incline where Colton McKivitz has done a lot of his work. And it's cool that this is a guy who went to college at West Virginia, who is now tied to the city of San Francisco, tied to the Bay Area, and has now contractually renewed with the 49ers at what I think is it's obviously a team-friendly rate, but let's not forget that Colton McKivitz gets a lot of money in his pocket now. $27 million guaranteed in this deal. $45 million over 3 years is the max value. I mean, it's a lot more than $4.5 million per year, and that was what the max was for him in 2025 before this deal. Colton was one of the gold helmet prospects for the 49ers coming out of the draft in 2020. This is just a really good developmental story, right? This is one of those things where 5th-round pick, nobody was really sure if he'd be a guard or a tackle at the NFL level. He didn't have the measurables of an elite offensive lineman coming out of West Virginia. 49ers actually cut him entering the 2021 season and re-signed him to the practice squad. Then Trent Williams got hurt late in that season, and Colton McKivitz had to fill in for him in that game against the Rams. Do you guys remember? Not the NFC Championship, but the Week 18 game against the Rams. It was Colton McKivitz playing that left tackle position for the 49ers, and they won in dramatic fashion. Actually, Trent did come back and play on a high ankle sprain for San Francisco in the rematch against the Rams in the NFC title game. But then he later regretted doing so. He later thought, maybe I should have let Colton play instead of me. So Colton earned his stripes. It was kind of like a trial by fire as a backup 49ers tackle coming off of the practice squad after a re-promotion in 2021. 2022 was firmly a backup working behind the scenes for San Francisco. Remember that Mike McGlinchey came back in that 2022 season from his big injury. That was the whole thing in 2021. Mike McGlinchey, lower body injury back in 2022. Then there was the talk, okay, would the 49ers think about extending McGlinchey? They did not want to extend Mike McGlinchey at a close to an A-list rate at the time when they weren't getting A-list pass protection from Mike McGlinchey. It was below average pass protection. So they thought in-house they had their guy in Colton McKivitz at a bargain rate of about $4 million per year. And they promoted him to starter in 2023. And the improvement that McKivitz made between 2023 and 2024 really, really was staggering. Mike has got some good graphics here. He's got a quarterback graphic, and he's got the relative athletic score for Colton McKivitz. This is a self-made man right here. I'm going to show you guys the metrics for Colton coming out of college at West Virginia. This is back in 2020, so this is half decade ago. He's since run the hills of San Francisco to improve these numbers and turn into a legitimate tackle in a tough system at the NFL level. But look at this. Not a good relative athletic score, right, coming out. This is why he was a 5th-round pick. But McKivitz has gotten faster. He's gotten stronger. And this is a testament to patience and to development, which makes this, I think, a really feel-good story now that he signs his first truly larger deal at the NFL level at the age of 29. So the 49ers are sitting here. They're figuring out the offensive line moving forward. Both tackle spots have stable commodities now with Trent Williams on one side and Colton McKivitz on the other. Dominic Puni is their right guard of the future. I wonder if Dominic Puni is the direct backup now to Colton McKivitz because Austin Pleasance actually wasn't active yesterday, which was interesting to me. I don't know if we saw Spencer Burford line up at right tackle with the second team in warm-up, so maybe the 49ers are comfortable in a swing situation now with Spencer. It didn't appear that they had been comfortable with that earlier in training camp, but it's just very fascinating to see how the 49ers are trying to maximize this collection of offensive linemen on the team. And obviously, McKivitz is entrenched as their starter at that right tackle position. I look at the Caleb McGarry contract with the Falcons, 2 years, $30 million, $15 million annually as a comp for Colton McKivitz. I look at Jalen Moore, 2 for $30, $15 million as a comp, and Moore's not even starting. McGarry hurt his leg shortly after signing with Atlanta. And then I also look at Luke Gadecki, who might be considered a rung above Colton McKivitz. But the developmental trajectory of Colton McKivitz certainly suggests that he might catch somebody like Luke Gadecki, who signed for $22.5 million annually with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That happened just 6 days ago. It's up on your screen right there. And the article, Mike, why don't you toss the link of this into the description, please? I'm going to send this to Mike. Everybody can check it out. I'm up early here at the Fairmont, the Olympic in Seattle, ready with the portable camera, talking about Colton McKivitz. I thought that I was going to be breaking down some game tape. I'm still going to do a lot of that today. Maybe we'll do some of that on this show before I go get breakfast. Got to get a lox sandwich for breakfast. The salmon here in the Pacific Northwest really is top of the line. I had a great burger late at night last night after watching all the tape and getting through so much of the game and writing the article. I mean, I showed you guys inside the 49ers locker room here. But this morning I've already written this, what Colton McKivitz's new contract means for the 49ers' future at offensive tackle. It is definitely worth a read as you wake up on this Monday morning. You know, I'll tell you what, the 49ers yesterday, that was as big as a week 1 win could be. And I mean, just for several reasons, that they made sure that the demons of 2024 were stiff-armed yesterday. That was a game that saw so many of the problems that 2024 brought, but not the result that 2024 brought, right? I mean, that was a game that you look at it and you say, okay, terrible special teams performance. We get it. Jake Moody, and there were other problems on special teams too outside of Jake Moody, which is, I think, even more alarming. So terrible special teams performance for the 49ers. A struggle due to injuries to offensive weapons and some struggles up front for San Francisco. But without Juwan Jennings by the very end of it, without George Kittle by the very end of it, Brandon Ayuk obviously didn't play. He was on PUP and is still going to be on PUP for at least a few more weeks. Demarcus Robinson is suspended. Hey, 2024 vibes were in the receiver room were prevalent throughout training camp, right? And I think that they hit again over the course of that game as Kittle and Juwan Jennings went down. So you had several of these things that had really given the 49ers trouble in 2024. Their biggest nemesis last season was the division. Like they were tripped up continually by division opponents in the final minutes of games. They went 1-5 against the division in 2024, with 4 of those losses being games that were blown at the very end. So the fact that, you know, so much was going wrong for them in the special teams department and in the offensive weapon department, the fact that so much was going wrong there and they reversed the outcome. They didn't lose to a division opponent. They notched a massive NFC West win instead. That's why this meant so much to the 49ers in the locker room yesterday. It was a true vibe shifter for San Francisco, and that's why I say this was as big as week 1 wins come for the 49ers. So that's what I wrote about up on the San Francisco Standard. You could see it up on your screen right now. It was a gutsy win, and it came with a toll. I mean, Juwan Jennings is going to undergo an MRI today. George Kittle is going to undergo an MRI today. There are early indications that these could be multi-week injuries for the 49ers. They're going to have to scrap and claw their way forward. The good news is that the schedule sets up favorably for San Francisco. They play the New Orleans Saints next week, then they come home against the Cardinals and Jacksonville. But already you can see how this NFL season is a marathon that must be run like a sprint, and that is absolutely brutal. The challenge facing the 49ers and every NFL team to stay as physically healthy as possible is an immense one, and sometimes it's one that's out of your control. Stuff is just going to happen, and they had a very relatively healthy roster entering this game against Seattle. I think they're probably still relatively healthy, but they're going to have to start dealing with the attrition that is just part of an NFL season. And it's a really, really good thing for them that they are able to notch the big win in Seattle. I have my notebook here. I got to grab my notebook here. Give me a second. We're going to go through some of what I noticed on tape yesterday. All right, we have it here. I'm going to have to sift through a lot of this. I was sitting in the lobby of the hotel. A lot of 49ers fans here yesterday. I was just in the corner, though, drinking an old-fashioned last night, rewatching this game twice. this was one of the most fascinating 49ers games that I've covered. And this is my 9th season now covering the football team. I mean, there were so many things that stood out in this football game as far as confirmations of what we had suspected, but then surprises as well. And at the top of the list is the 49ers defense. I mean, these guys were awesome in this game yesterday. I mean, I rewatched it, and D. Winters is flying around the field. He looked a lot like Dre Greenlaw, to be honest. The speed and the violence with which D. Winters was playing. I know that the 49ers were excited about the jump that he had made this offseason, but if that was in any way emblematic of how D. Winters is going to perform throughout the entirety of this 2025 season, I think it's safe to say now this 49ers defense is going to be A-okay. I mean, the linebacker is so important to this football team. It is the intermediary between the front and the back seven, or the back four, I guess, because the linebacker level is the middle three. And both Winters and Luke Gifford can move. Gifford is the 49ers number 3 linebacker. He is fast. Like, I remember Greg Papa texting me shortly after the 49ers signed Luke Gifford this offseason. We all just thought, okay, Luke is going to be a special teams ace kind of guy for the 49ers. That might be the ceiling. Greg texted me saying, watch Gifford, put on the Gifford tape. He's fast. And I did. And yes, I mean, and we know the 49ers want that speed at linebacker. Gifford has it, and Winters definitely has it. And we all know that Fred Warner is a future Hall of Famer. I think they have a shot to be really, really imposing at that linebacker level. I had a few really, really cool graphics from last night. We'll see if we can get them open. Yeah, here are some of them. There was, well, this right here, this is from Brock Purdy's game-winning touchdown pass to Jake Tonjes. Purdy was running at 16 miles per hour when he let that football go. He was sprinting to his right, and Tonjes had only 0.4 yards of separation when the ball arrived. So the completion probability was only 14.7%. Bottom line is that Brock Purdy had to show some guts to get this done yesterday. I wrote all about the throw to Ricky Pearsall on the double move. That was huge. That came 5 plays before the one that we just highlighted to Jake Tonjes. That came against deeper Seattle coverage because they had anticipated that the 49ers would need to try to take the top off the defense based on how that game was going. It got to a point where you had to play some hero ball yesterday, right? Because Jake Moody was missing kicks. Kicks were getting blocked. Seattle is a really, really damn good defense. They're bend but don't break. So they were bending, but they weren't breaking all too often yesterday. The 49ers didn't want to overexpose their defense either. They just had to get this to a point where they threw a couple haymakers. Like, under 4 minutes to go, they needed to throw some big punches. A little curl route to Ricky Pearsall wasn't going to do it anymore. Like, you had to attack downfield. You had to play some hero downfield. So even though Reek Woolen was lined up deep on that one play to Ricky Pearsall, Purdy and Pearsall just decided to go for the curl and go. Double move, curl and go. Bullet, strike, downfield. Pearsall, I mean, little Antonio Brown action there. A little bit of a deke against Reek Woolen, right? Accelerated to the last moment, made Reek think that ball was underthrown a little bit. It wasn't. It was perfect from Purdy. But then what we saw on this right here to Tonjes, I mean, that was Purdy putting on the Superman cape, Jake Tonjes putting on his Superman cape. I mean, that's a hell of a connection. That's something that we can't call it the catch 4 because this was not the postseason, but we can give it a nickname. You know, I'm going to call the Colton McKivitz contract the Vallejo Street victory in homage to Colton McKivitz's work on San Francisco's iconic hills. Well, here's an homage to what happened in an iconic San Francisco stadium. Dwight Clark on one side, Jake Tonjes on the other. Mike put this together yesterday. Cool stuff, right? Thank you to Mike. This was a wow moment. I said 49ers played some hero ball and won yesterday. They needed to. Purdy, I mean, this was an ultimate game situation kind of moment. It was third down. The 49ers are trailing this game by 3. Purdy is rolling to his right like Joe Montana against the Cowboys in January of 1982. Nobody is open. And you could tell, based on the decision that he made, that he realized where the 49ers were at as a football team. Jake Moody would have had to go out there and kick, in all likelihood, had that pass been incomplete on fourth down. Even if Jake Moody goes out there and kicks and makes it, it's a tie game, and Seattle has the ball with a minute plus left and a shot to win the game. The 49ers are still in a position of disadvantage, even if that game is tied up. Brock Purdy realizes that you go for the win there, even though people aren't open. You have to have guts in that situation. Fortune is going to favor the bold. Fortune favored the bold when he found Ricky Pearsall. Fortune favored the bold when he looked for Jake Tonjes. This was a landmark win for the 49ers when you consider what happened in 2024. But it was also a litmus test kind of game for Brock Purdy evaluation. And I got the full context right here. Why don't I get this up on the screen for you guys? This is what I posted last night. This is what needs to be emphasized today. Brock Purdy went into Seattle and pulled a win out against the top 5 hopeful defense without his ex-wide receiver, without his all-world tight end, and without his leading wide receiver from last year, with an inefficient run game and a career-high pressure rate, all while his special teams unit left 6 points on the board. So a lot was not set up for the 49ers to win this game, yet they still dominated it statistically, and they still got it done in crunch time. I understand that it might be really hard to parse a game like this, but the good news is you don't really have to, because you've got this guy on your team wearing number 13 who's able to put on his Superman cape when he needs to, and that's what a franchise quarterback should be able to do. He's able to do that and secure the victory. And that's what we saw yesterday from Brock Purdy. Massive, massive performance when it counted most. You know, we hear so many idiotic takes about, oh, well, this interception. It's like, is Brock Purdy the only quarterback in the entire league that's not allowed to throw a pick? Purdy had about 40 decision points yesterday. 40. Okay? Because he had 35 passes and he scrambled a few times, and there was a sack that he took as well. So we'll say 40 decision points for Brock Purdy. He made the correct decision on at least 38 of them, maybe 39. That first interception to Ernest Jones, that was tough. That was a great play from Ernest Jones. Yeah, he forced the football. Did you watch Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen? Even in the game where they both put up 40 plus, they also forced passes. So he forced one pass, one decision out of 40 was bad. The standard that people, fake smart people, I call it fake smart, that they try to hold Brock Purdy to is absolutely ridiculous. It's ludicrous. He's not allowed to have one decision that he'd like to have back out of 40. Yeah, sure. Why are you holding pick number 262 to a higher standard than first overall picks, to guys who are paid even more than him, like Josh Allen in the NFL? He's going to be a lightning rod his whole career. I get it. And because of that, I'm going to sit here spitting facts for the rest of Brock Purdy's career, or at least as long as I'm covering the 49ers. if you're unable to put a game like yesterday into the appropriate context, though, I can't help you. He's 4-0 against Seattle. He delivered when it mattered most. He was handicapped by the fact that the 49ers didn't have the weapons that I listed here, and the 49ers left 6 special teams points on the board, and he still was able to get it done. Why don't we talk about Sam Darnold putting up 13 points at home for Seattle yesterday, 150 passing yards. Yeah, but he didn't throw an interception, right? So, yeah, it must have been a great game for Sam Darnold. How idiotic does that sound? Judging everything by one interception instead of looking at overall efficiency. So, glad that the 49ers and Purdy got that sorted. So, and they've got Colton McKivitz now locked in to protect Brock Purdy moving into the future. So anyway, I've got my notes here. I rewatched this game yesterday. Colton McKivitz's contract is at the top of our news this morning. But like I said, in that locker room yesterday, I walked in there and Trent Williams and Colton McKivitz were both very happy customers. And I was just like, is this just because of the win? I did think twice about it. And I didn't think that it was going to be a contract extension for McKivitz, but it turns out that good news can happen and come in twos, and that's exactly what happened. A double dipping of good news for the 49ers. Did you guys notice the very first pass rush yesterday? It was a completion for Sam Darnold over the middle, but Michael Williams, he's got such long arms. The 49ers immediately collapsed that pocket yesterday. And Michael, we talk about power coming from his length. It was apparent against Abe Lucas on the very first snap of this game. I love the NFL Next Gen stats measure of distance from the quarterback, and this just shows you that the 49ers collapsed the pocket the way that they wanted to yesterday. This was a big part of their defensive performance. But Michael Williams already well above average as far as distance from quarterback, 3.74 yards. That was a Seattle team that was trying to operate a pass game off of the run game spine, and the 49ers wouldn't let that run game really take off. Seattle was just about 3 yards per carry, and then they collapsed the pocket in a very efficient manner. This is what you want from Michael Williams as a rookie. That impressed me right out of the gate. I think that the 49ers' most valuable addition of the offseason, though, isn't their first-round pick. I think it's their defensive coordinator. I think it has to be Robert Saleh. With what he called up blitz-wise, I've got Bosa stunt here. I've got a Fred Warner Deke blitz. I've got Winters coming after the quarterback very, very frequently. I have a pass rushing package on third downs of Bryce Huff and Bosa on the edges, Yetur Gross-Matos and Michael Williams on the inside. The combination of Robert Saleh and Chris Kasarik is a lethal one, because these guys know what to do with the talent that they have. And the 49ers didn't just sit back and let themselves get picked apart by Sam Darnold. How many times last year did the 49ers, they struggled to stop the run, right, in 2024. But there were times where a penalty would push their opponents back, and the 49ers would be looking at a 2nd and 18 situation as a defense. The opposing offense would be in a definite hole. How many times did 49ers opponents get out of those holes last year? It didn't matter if it was 2nd and 2 or 2nd and 18. It seemed that the Nick Sorensen defense would find a way to blow the opportunity. And there were once the Seahawks got behind the sticks yesterday, it was over for them. Darnold wasn't recovering once they got behind the sticks for 2 reasons. The 49ers were extremely disciplined on the back end, and Robert Saleh took the battle to Seattle with his pressures. So when I'm looking here at what the 49ers did pass rushing wise, and I see a the Bosa stunt early was sick. I mean, that was on Fred Warner and B. Winters blitzing, so they brought 6. Every single one of the first 3 third or fourth down conversions featured heavy pressure. And then the fourth one, they feigned it, they faked it, and they backed off. And then as soon as they backed off, D. Winters flew to the football and just blew up Sam Darnold's give-up pass to the far side. Robert Saleh is a chess grandmaster, and I think he's the most valuable addition of the 49ers offseason. Kalia Davis. When I'm watching the tape, Kalia Davis, defensive tackle. Did you guys see him just destroy Anthony Bradford, the right guard, for a run stop? What the 49ers did this offseason is they stocked up on very, very aggressive run stoppers. And Kalia Davis is a player that's already been with him for a couple years, but he fits the mold that they want to stop the run up front. Why? Because he used to be an inside linebacker in college. Like, this guy can fire off the football with exceptional athleticism for a defensive tackle because of his athletic background. And the glory of Kalia Davis is that he was obviously stronger than a linebacker. So he's got some of the linebacker genes, if you will, but he's got defensive tackle size. And he just tossed Anthony Bradford aside. That was a huge tackle for loss for the 49ers. Nick Bosa. Before Nick Bosa had the strip sack to end this game, the play before, he was in on the run stop that set the Seahawks up to pass in that next situation. And then he just backed Abe Lucas straight into Sam Darnold, and that sealed the win. I mean, so many different components to this 49ers performance. But if you want to summarize, if you want to take this and say, well, what's the overarching thing about what this defense did? They were missiles against the run. They executed what Robert Saleh wanted. It was a much more complex game plan than anything we saw brought from Steve Wilks or Nick Sorensen. And, you know, a great embodiment of what the 49ers did yesterday. Sam Okawanu is probably the team's 9th or 10th defensive lineman. Okay? Number 8 at highest, right? He made the game-changing play in the fourth quarter yesterday. And it was a hustle play. It was a phenomenal play. I mean, so screen pass out to JSN. Best weapon for the Seahawks. You got to get out of the stack if you're a defensive lineman, right? Sam Okawanu, it doesn't matter if he's number 8, number 9, number 10 on the pecking order. He didn't get sucked in like the 49ers were getting sucked in against screen passes all year last year. He gets out of the stack and he's pursuing a much faster receiver. Not only is he aware enough to be ready to catch JSN coming out of the screen, he catches him. And then on top of that, instead of just tackling him, as he's bringing him down, he feels the football. I talked to Sam O in the locker room. He feels the football. And as he feels the football, you can see on the replay, he very intentionally rips that football out. Do you know how hard that is in real time? And I saw Sam O over the course of training camp rip out a couple of footballs, and that's before they can tackle live to the ground. So he told me he's focusing on the ball all off season. It pays off in the first game. When you have your 9th or 10th defensive linemen chasing down the opposing team's best receiver and ripping the football out in a critical moment in the fourth quarter, when it's not Bosa that's doing that, when it's Sam Okawanu, defensive lineman number 8 or 9, when he's doing that, you have a well-coached defensive line that is playing extremely hard. You've got depth. That says something about a team culturally. And I think that you saw it play out yesterday. I mean, Robert Saleh promised, he said, there will be violence. Actually, George Kittle said that. But Robert Saleh, yeah, he also wants violence from this defense. There was a lot of violence yesterday. There was the kind of attitude and energy that youth has brought San Francisco. And that's where I was wrong in my prognostication of this game. I thought that they would have energy, but I didn't think that they'd be as polished as they would be yesterday. I thought that there would be more growing pains implementing a complex game plan for Robert Saleh because they had rookies starting. And there were some growing pains, but guess who had a massive pass breakup on the very final drive of the game? Upton Stout, the guy who got picked on in the first half, who made some of those rookie mistakes in the first half. So this defense matured in real time over the course of this huge week 1 game in Seattle, which I just thought was remarkable for the 49ers. That's where I was surprised. That's where I was wrong in my prognostication of this game. And that's why exiting this game, I think that the 49ers have their chances, the way that I'm really handicapping this 2025 season, their chances are much better than they were entering this game because of where the defense is right now. You got 91 running out of the stack here in my notes. How about the fourth down play? I think it was before the blocked field goal, so this one might be forgotten, but Purdy scanning across the entire formation on 4th and 2. I mean, he's looking right to left. His entire progression is taken care of, and then he squeezes a ball into Luke Farrell. Purdy had several nails plays on 3rd and 4th down yesterday. They completed or converted 50% of their 3rd downs. We just lost my camera. I'm going to have to turn this camera back. Oh, I think we're back on. Yes, we are. Good. Lost my camera very momentarily, but won't get me back on the screen here. So they converted 50% of their 3rd downs, but they also converted 100% of their 4th downs. And I mean, there was one to McCaffrey late in the game that was big for San Francisco. Then there was the one to Farrell that I just thought, Purdy's like Brady back there. He's just going through his progressions last second and fires one in their tight window. And Farrell's not known to be a receiving tight end, but he was able to haul that one in. And people had to play roles that they weren't used to playing yesterday after George Kittle went out. That's, we talk about Farrell, but it was Jake Tonjes who had the big catch for the 49ers. We'll call it the Los Gatos leap from Jake Tonjes, who delivered at the end of this football game. Where is it? We got to get the Los Gatos leap up there. Can't find the Los Gatos leap anymore. Hold on. I must have closed it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. There it is. Unheralded tight ends delivering for the 49ers against the Seattle Seahawks. Just a wow kind of game. By the end of this game, Upton Stout was doing a good job covering whoever was coming out of the slot, whether it be Cooper Kupp, JSN at times for Seattle. Upton Stout, I thought, that was a rapid maturation that we saw that was even more impressive once I watched this on tape. And, the 49ers started their fastest duo of safeties ever, like as a franchise, with Jason Pinnock and with Marquise Siegel. And Siegel's the one that recovered the fumble, by the way, that Sam Okawanu forced, but Pinnock was there flying around as well. They've got a lot of moldable clay that they're working with on this defense. Anyway, those of you just joining, Colton McKivitz has signed a contract. There's never a dull moment with this 49ers team. We've got it up on the San Francisco Standard, what Colton McKivitz's new contract means for the 49ers' future at offensive tackle. $15 million annually is a really good deal. Jalen Moore is playing for $15 million annually, and he's not even starting for the Chiefs. Luke Gadecki is at $22.5 million. That was signed last week. Colton McKivitz's play has improved significantly. He's an above-average pass protector now, and he's under contract through 2028. This is such a good deal that I didn't think the 49ers would be able to get it this offseason. But they did, and McKivitz and Trent Williams were both happy campers in the locker room yesterday. That was cool to see, and obviously they were celebrating two things: the 49ers win over the Seahawks, and now this contract extension. McKivitz, as I said, under contract through 2028. And you look at the other side, Trent Williams under contract through 2026, although he said he wants to play for 3 more years, which would have him on through 2027. The NFL draft is a tough spot to address tackle through if you don't pick very high. McKivitz, though, was drafted back in 2020, and he's developed into somebody whom the 49ers are happy to pay $15 million. This move might get some hate, but it is completely off base. This is a definite bargain for the 49ers, and that's just an objective take. That's just a look at where the tackle market stands. That takes a look at Colton McKivitz and his improving performance over the years, and the 49ers are happy to have him locked in on that offensive line, and he's happy for the extra financial security moving forward because he had been scheduled to make only $4.5 million this year. So a nice pay bump for Colton McKivitz entering this week. The 49ers are going to be turning the page to their game against the New Orleans Saints, but we're going to hear from Kyle Shanahan this afternoon. MRIs for Jawan Jennings and George Kittle today, and hopefully the results are out by this afternoon. Kyle Shanahan will let us know. I would think that the MRIs would be this morning, and Shanahan should have an injury update and maybe even fill us in on some other situations that might have slipped under the radar. Players' day off for the 49ers tomorrow, and then Saints week begins for San Francisco. Somebody says that they're growing tired of my charts. Well, sorry, you should leave then. More people watch me than anybody else by a widening amount. The gap is growing. So I don't care if you leave because this is the best channel for accurate, objective 49ers information. If you like incorrect information, you could go elsewhere. But I've been telling you that Christian McCaffrey was going to play. I was right. Been telling you that Colton McKivitz would be a bargain at $15 million. That's right as well. And I'll have facts to back everything up. So go ahead and leave if you don't want to be here. Yeah, the real numbers don't lie. I always love when somebody says they're going to leave. Just take a look at our viewership numbers compared to everybody else's. It's like, okay, dude, yeah, go be the one guy that leaves. That's going to make a real difference. We really care. No, we don't. See, this is fun. People fact check rumors with our channel. It's the way you got to do it. Camera, this camera is about to die. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it back on, actually. I have my Rode set up right now. So that means that our lives, well, I don't like to go over 50 minutes anyway. I'm going to try to get the camera back on, but if it doesn't work, then we're just going to do this audio for the rest of this channel, for the rest of this show. Precise information here. Yes, sir. There we go. With that attitude, I think I'll stay. Some of my subscribers are the best. You guys are awesome. Well, I think that's all the 49ers news for this morning anyway. I know that the audio's not working, but, just go ahead and check out the – here, we have a super chat. Oh, this is good. Was Mykel Williams getting double and triple team frequently? He's getting some doubles, but generally the doubles are saved for the inside and for Nick Bosa. So I think that Mykel, until he turns into somebody that's producing sacks, is not going to be facing all too many double teams. So what I saw was, again, I always say length to power. That's Mykel Williams. And the length is really imposing. He's got that wingspan, and he's able to push the pocket. They don't need him to necessarily blaze past these offensive linemen. They needed to collapse the pocket, and that's what he did very well for the 49ers yesterday. Appreciate it, everybody. Good times here in Seattle. 49ers win. Colton McKivitz, new contract. Go check it out on the San Francisco Standard. $15 million a year. It's a bargain for the 49ers and more money right now. Some security for Colton McKivitz. More coming soon here from the Emerald City? Yep, the Emerald City. We'll talk to you guys in a bit.